You may well have noticed that in the past few weeks, I haven't posted any videos on the more technical aspects of Buddhist philosophy. And I know that some people will rejoice in this because they have a natural aversion to study and also don't really like hearing about doctrine or ideology. But this comes from misunderstanding three important aspects of any spiritual path, and that is view, meditation, and conduct. And these are present in all spiritual traditions. Even the hedonists who do not believe in past and future lives and karma, cause and effect have their own scriptures. In fact, pretty well all traditions have scriptures, and they see these to be very important. In the Buddha Dharma at least, then these are called the three baskets. They're the three categories of study that are essential to make progress on the spiritual path, and they are directly related to view, meditation, and conduct. The first of these is called the Abhidharma, and this is Buddhist metaphysics or science. It describes the way the universe is, also describes the various levels that are encountered on the progressive path, along with associated signs and results. For example, these will describe what Buddhahood is and how one achieves it. The basket related to meditation is called the Sutras, and these are primarily discourses between interlocutors who ask the Buddha questions as basically a form of giving general advice on the spiritual path. The final basket, and this is a basket that most Westerners dislike the most, is the Vinaya, and that's related to conduct. Now, part of the reason why I think that Western practitioners aren't really keen on these baskets of Abhidharma and Vinaya is because, one, we don't like to study because we're lazy, and two, we don't like to keep discipline because we don't really want to have to give anything up nor adopt virtue. We tell ourselves that studying scriptures and keeping discipline are unnecessary on the spiritual path, but this is just a form of self-deception. And so not understanding the three baskets, then what we do is we like to focus on meditation alone. Now, as I've said before, then there's basically two types of meditation. One is called shamatha and the other is called vipassana. And as I said before, then it's only this form of vipassana that brings liberation. And in terms of vipassana and the Buddha Dharma, then there are three types. There's that associated with the Hinayana, that associated with the Mahayana, and that associated with the Vajrayana. But the differences between these different types of vipassana meditation solely depend on the differences in the view. And so this Theravada or Hinayana type of vipassana depends upon the first turning of the wheel of Dharma, which is the teachings on the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Noble Path. The Mahayana version of vipassana, which is primarily practiced in Zen traditions, is based on the second turning of the wheel of Dharma, that is the teachings on emptiness and bodhicitta. And the vipassana of the Vajrayana, which is synonymous with Mahamudra and Dzogchen, is the vipassana that is based on the teachings of the third turning of the wheel of Dharma, which is the teachings on signlessness. So we need to develop shamatha and we need to develop vipassana. But the question is, what are the causes for these forms of meditation? To put it simply, the causes for meditation are view and conduct. Keeping discipline and conduct is taught to be the direct cause for developing shamatha meditation. And so, in order to do that, you need to restrain the body and also practice virtue. And it is on the basis of accumulating virtue and also abandoning negativity that we are able to develop our shamatha meditation. And as you probably have heard, then there are three results in the shamatha meditation, or three levels associated with this practice. And the problem here in the West is, although we like to meditate, we never attain any of these levels of mental abiding or shamatha. Also, you might ask, what is the direct cause for developing insight meditation? Well, that is study, and primarily that is study of the Abhidharma. So that's studying metaphysics and philosophy. In the Buddha Dharma, at least, that is taught to be intelligence. We have three trainings and three baskets or categories in the Buddha Dharma. These three trainings are the training in intelligence, the training in samadhi, and the training in discipline. And these are connected to these three baskets or these three topics that are taught in the Buddha Dharma. And so the Abhidharma, or Buddhist science, is a collection of scriptures that teach the training in intelligence. The sutras are a collection of scriptures that teach the training in meditation. And the Vinaya is a collection of scriptures on conduct that teach the training in discipline. So as you can see, then without training in intelligence or in conduct, there is no way to develop these two types of meditation, vipassana and shamatha, that is insight meditation and calm abiding meditation. So this is a fundamental problem here. is that although in the West we love to meditate, when it comes down to it, we don't know how to meditate. And the reason why we don't know how to meditate is because we reject 2 out of the 3 baskets of the Buddha Dharma. The basket that are the scriptures of the trainings on intelligence, and the basket that is the collection of scriptures that teach the trainings on discipline. And so, by rejecting these 2 baskets or categories of study in Buddha Dharma, then we never come to understand meditation. And to me, this is a fundamental point. And so this comes to the topic of my discussion today. And that is this quote that we often hear from the Buddha Dharma. And that goes, "Realization is the view beyond views." Now, most Westerners interpret this quote to mean that we need to abandon all beliefs and ideologies. And again, this is in harmony with our basic view, because we have a natural dislike for doctrine or suspicion for theology. But in my opinion, the interpretation of this quote to mean that we need to abandon all belief is a very difficult position to hold. And the reason is that all spiritual traditions have a core set of beliefs that we all take to be given truths. For example, we are taught that it is wrong to lie, kill, or steal, or engage in sexual misconduct, but also that it is positive to engage in the activities of saving life, telling the truth, giving in generosity, and practicing pure conduct. I think this last point is one that Westerners have a real difficulty with, and to my mind, that is principally because we have such great attachment to the experiences of bliss that arise in sexual activity. And of course, there are some slight differences in the basic code of conduct between the religions, but these core set of beliefs are all things that we see to be positive. And so, to believe on the spiritual path that we need to abandon these beliefs is a mistaken view. It is true that ultimately, authentic meditation is a state that goes beyond all conceptual imputation. The problem is that we don't know how to meditate. And furthermore, our aversion to keeping discipline and to studying doctrine itself is a very strong form of conceptual imputation. Someone who is not able to give up their addiction to the mundane world, likewise, is not able to rest in profound samadhi, and this is because they have very strong conditioned beliefs. And it is these conditioned beliefs that we need to overcome in order to be able to rest in transcendent wisdom. So if this quote, that realization is the view beyond views, does not mean that we have to be free of all views, good and bad, that we need to abandon these 3 baskets of the Buddha Dharma, or these 3 aspects of spiritual traditions, that being view, meditation, and conduct, then what is a proper interpretation of this quote? Well, in the Buddha Dharma at least, then it is very specific. The meaning is given as this: realization is the view that is free from the 5 views. So what are these 5 views? Well, these 5 views are the views associated with an afflicted, discriminating intelligence. Well, that might seem like a very technical term and something that's not related to our direct experience, but actually the meaning of this isn't complicated, it's quite simple. What it means is, as long as we are under the sway of our negative mind poisons, then we have what is called this mistaken or afflicted discriminating intelligence. And how is our discrimination afflicted? And that's because we relate to the world around us in a mistaken manner. We have strong attachment to those things that we desire. We are averse to our enemies and the things we don't like. We have pride and jealousy and greed and those sort of things. And the reason why we have these negative mind poisons is because we possess fundamental ignorance. And fundamental ignorance is what? That is clinging to a self, to me and mine. And so on the basis of this, then we see the world in a mistaken manner. We see the world through this lens of our conceptual imputations, through this lens of our conceptual fallacies. And it is only once we have transcended our conceptual fallacies that are based on these negative mind poisons that the true meaning of this quote becomes clear. It becomes a pointing out instruction to the true nature of mind. It is a state of abiding in non-referential compassion, or you could say, it is a state of virtuous non-dual wisdom. And so you may very well ask, what are these 5 mistaken views? Well, they are: 1. The view of the perishing collection. 2. Perverse views. 3. The view of the 2 extremes. 4. The view that takes views to be supreme. And 5. The view that takes conduct and ascetic practice as being supreme. And so by this, you can see that this quote, that realization is a view beyond views, is not as simple as it seems. And this is a fundamental fault we have when we approach the Buddha Dharma. We oversimplify things. And so you may very well ask, why is it that we oversimplify the teachings of the Buddha? One reason for that is that basically we're a bit shallow. We don't look into things with any depth. We don't investigate for ourselves to derive personal experience and knowledge of what is being taught. This is partially because of our natural laziness, but also it's because what we're looking for is something that resonates with our natural worldview. And so when we hear a quote from the Buddha, the first thing we do is we try to look for an interpretation that doesn't conflict with our own set of beliefs. We're not going beyond belief. What we're doing is we're trying to reinforce our beliefs. For example, I really like intimate relationships. And so when we hear about this fifth wrong view, the wrong view of taking discipline and yogic conduct as being supreme, then immediately we jump to a conclusion. We say, see, I told you, there's no need to keep discipline. In fact, becoming a monk is mistaken. It says right here in the scriptures that taking discipline to be supreme is mistaken. Also, going through all the hardships on the yogic path is mistaken. I don't need any of these things. That's what the Buddha taught. I'm just going to rest in non-referential compassion. But this is fundamentally mistaken. Because in order to develop insight, one, we need shamatha. We need calm abiding meditation. We need stability of the mind, and we need mental acuity. And how do we develop this? Well, we have to practice shine. We have to practice shamatha. And what is the cause for shamatha or shine? Well, the cause for this is discipline. And so as we progress on the spiritual path, it's important that we bind or restrict our negative emotions. Because if we don't, then we won't be able to develop this kind of samadhi, or resting in peace and tranquility. Not only that, but we also have to develop insight meditation. And that's not easy. That's a difficult thing to do. And in order to do that, then it is taught, we must study. We must develop our intelligence. And as I said previously in many videos, then there's different ways we can develop this intelligence. One is through study of scriptures, of terminology, of concepts, and the other is through direct study of the mind, appearances, and thoughts. But either way, we have to invest a lot of time in this study because insight will not develop on its own. Of course, there are those special individuals who merely upon seeing a symbol, like a finger pointing to the sky or a flower being held up, will develop this insight. But those individuals have vast stores of karmic residue, and based on this, in this lifetime, they seem to easily gain realization with little prior cause. But that's a mistaken understanding. And furthermore, this is an understanding that denies the existence of past and future lives and karma cause and effect. Because it is the case that these special individuals over countless lifetimes have kept discipline, and not only that, have dedicated themselves wholeheartedly to study and meditation practice. So as you can see here, then this is a difficult and profound topic, but I think it's one that is worth covering. We hear that there is this wrong view called the view of the perishing collection. But what exactly is the perishing collection? Well, the perishing collection is the skandhas, the 5 aggregates. And as I've mentioned before, these are forms, feelings, discrimination, formations, and consciousness. And so, in order to see how this view of the perishing collection is mistaken, then I need to explain in some detail exactly how this view of the perishing collection is a mistaken view, and not only that, how it becomes an obstacle to us developing insight on the path. And I think the mistake I made previously in trying to record this video is I tried to cover all the details in one video. And so I'm not going to do that here. I will just use this video as an introduction to these 5 mistaken views associated with an afflicted discriminating intelligence. And then in subsequent videos, I will try to explain exactly why these views are mistaken and how they affect our meditation practice. Now, from your comments, I understand that some people don't like these talks on terminology and Buddhist philosophy. But you have to understand that there are many people who do like these talks. And not only that, then there are different types of individuals. Some people have a natural aptitude in the trainings on intelligence. Some people have a natural aptitude to the trainings on discipline. And some people are better with meditation. But you have to understand that of these 3, meditation is the most difficult. And also, contrary to our basic belief in the West, then there are very few people who have a natural aptitude for meditation. What is taught in the Buddha Dharma is that there are 84,000 different teachings. The meaning of this is that there are different individuals with different dispositions. So, for example, some of the viewers on YouTube will have better resonance with videos that include pretty imagery or general advice that is given in natural spaces. For others, there will be greater resonance with videos that include lots of terminology and present Buddhist philosophy. And so there are as many different methods as there are sentient beings in samsara. And because of that, then we have the 3 baskets. But you have to understand that it's not as if we can just study one training and ignore the rest. Remember that there are these 3 categories: view, meditation, and conduct. And now we tend to think that these are separate, but they are not separate in any way. For example, once you develop a view, then along with that view, then naturally there is an associated meditation and conduct. For example, if you have the view of the Hinayana, then naturally you will also have the meditation of the Hinayana and the conduct of the Hinayana, and this is the foundation of all Buddhist practice. And likewise, if you have the view of the second turning of the wheel of Dharma that is associated with the Mahayana or greater vehicle, then likewise you will develop the meditation and the conduct associated with that vehicle. For example, in the Mahayana, we do not concentrate primarily on discipline, but on bodhicitta, that is loving kindness and compassion. And so that view dictates our conduct and also our meditation. And similarly, it's the same when it comes to the third turning of the wheel of Dharma or the teachings on the Vajrayana. So I won't go on about it anymore. I'm going to leave that until the next video. And so, if you're interested in this topic, then I hope you can bear with me. I suggest that you try to see it through, to watch each one of these videos in order to come to a greater understanding of this topic. And also, if you're not interested in this, it's up to you whether or not you watch these videos. But I will suggest that what we tend to do is we avoid the things we don't like and only concentrate on the things we do like. And this is one of the reasons why we find it so difficult to make progress on the spiritual path. In some ways, applying your time to those things that you don't like is more beneficial than applying yourself to those things that you do like. We have a lot of issues and problems. We've got the negative mind poisons, and we need to undo these things. And so naturally, if we have strong aversion towards study, then by accepting study and engaging it, we can diminish our aversion. And it's this diminishing of our aversion that leads to us developing spiritual understanding and practice. So anyway, until next time, I'll see you later.